Hey everybody, Chris here. Cost of living continues to rise, and I've got 5 tips on how you can help manage that in this video. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel, hit that little notification bell too. You can be notified when my videos come out, as well as when I do live streams. And on my live streams, I do market analysis, so if you want to see the latest of what's going on with gold and silver, stocks, and crypto, including Bitcoin and Dogecoin, make sure you join in on the lives. That way, you can ask your questions about what's going on with anything in the economy, financial-wise, but we do get into the charts and the news of what's going on, particularly with cryptocurrencies, which are down a little bit right now, having a little bit of a move up, but we're getting into today's FOMC meeting. That's right. We're going to see Chair Powell. I'll be over on Tom Crown's channel in the chat there while Tom is doing his great job on covering the FOMC. And then on the live stream after that, this afternoon, I'll do the follow-up as I usually do. Expect some volatility during the FOMC, and then I wrap it up after. But now we're talking about cost of living, and we know prices are going up. Not on everything. There's some things that prices are actually down a little bit, so we're going to talk about that. But why and what's going on? So I've got 3 articles I'm going to be referencing. The links to those are in the description below, but we are going to start with cost of living increases and financial goals. Now, it's always good to make some financial goals, and the survey about financial goals from back in 2025, it's that we had 82% who had financial goals in 2025 said they didn't stick to them, which is typical, right? You begin the year, you make your goals, and it's tough to keep up with it. And 50% of those who say that they had financial goals and they didn't meet them, well, they're looking at the rising cost of living as the top reason why they're short on those goals. So when you think about that, you're like, yeah, we know prices are getting higher, so what can we do about them? Well, we're going to talk about financial goals overall in another video, but for now, what we want to get into is why. What is the price that's going on now? We have this, CBS News has this price tracker. Again, a link to this will be in the description below, but what we're going to look at is overall inflation. So we start with overall inflation. We see back in 2022, we had huge inflation left over from COVID. And I don't want to get into all the politics of everything and what was going with the Biden administration. I mean, Trump has been working on trying to lower inflation. He wants it even lower. And Jerome Powell does too with the Fed. And we'll talk more about Powell again in a minute. But lately, we've been around, 2.6, 2.7% inflation. That's year over year. That means overall, we still have inflation. Sticky is a word that Powell uses, trying to get that down to 2%, but it's not happening right now. So is the Fed going to lower interest rates? Not today. I predicted this a few months ago that it would be a pause because we still have concern about jobs, right? And we have the inflation just kind of waving up and down right now. But let's get into the cost of living increases and what is happening. And we begin with this overall food up 18%, up 18% since the beginning of January 2022. And we use that number because that's when we were supposed to be curbing inflation, right? Inflation is coming down since 2022. So CBS looks at this and says, well, how are prices doing since then? And yes, we still have rising inflation, but 18% on food. Now, did your wages go up 18%? Probably not. And that's what the problem is, right? Wages have not kept up with the cost of living increases for most items. So let's go through some of these. This website's really good because you can pick and choose a number of items, and I'll just give some highlights here. We'll talk about gas, for instance. So if we look at gasoline, because this is important on whether we're in a recession or not. Now, some believe we're already in a recession, or we've been in a recession for a while. Certainly the tariffs have kind of hurt some as well. Now, we don't see that usually overall, the effective tariffs on prices overall. It's really more foreign goods coming in, but there's foreign parts and pieces that go into American products as well. So we see a tick up of prices because of that as well. But that's not the big story. The big story is really what the Trump presidency is doing to try and curb a recession. Now, if you don't drive a lot, right, the lower price of gas really doesn't do anything overall. But if you do drive a lot, hey, having gas under $3, that's pretty good. But this, I believe, is the Trump administration artificially lowering the price of gas, drill baby drill, right? Like all of that, increasing the amount of gas in production so that overall gas is cheaper. And we think, all right, gas is down, economy's good. Well, not overall though. Not overall. So let's talk about cars, for instance. This is an interesting chart in looking at cars, new vehicles versus used. Now we saw after the pandemic, right, used car prices just skyrocketed, right? Because there was a slowdown in the delivery of new vehicles, but that's all changing back around now. Now to sell a used car is pretty bad. The prices are way down. If you need to sell. Now, if you want to buy a new car, prices up. But if you want to buy a used car, actually prices are down on that and you can find some good deals around. So kind of an interesting mix on that. Let's talk about household goods. And one of them that I'm kind of keying on is pets, because this is like 20%, up 20% for pet food, treats, and other pet-related items. Costs a lot of money to have pets these days, right? It's just one of those things that costs more. Let's talk about medical care. Now, physician services are about 6% or so up, but dental is up 19% for dental services. So again, another one of those things that your wages most likely haven't kept up with the increasing price of dental services. We look at communications, technology, computers are down overall, television's way down. Look at that, 30% drop since 2022 in TVs. Now, if you want the latest, like, 4 HD, we're past UHD now, we're into OLED and all those other new technologies, so you can still spend more on the big, 75-inch like OLED TVs, but you can still get some pretty good prices on last year's tech and still a pretty good TV. So we have that. So, again, offsets between those things that cost more and those things that cost less. But if you want to see what's more, it's insurance. Insurance is up across the board. Rental, home insurance up 15%. But car insurance, look at that, 55%. 55% rise in the price of car insurance, which in most states you have to prove that you have car insurance before you can register your vehicle. So it's tough to keep up with that. Again, overall, wages have not kept up with the increase of the cost of goods and services. So what can we do about it? Overall, again, Jerome Powell, he's doing what he can, right? With quantitative tightening ending, we're going to go into the quantitative easing. The only tool he has is to raise or lower interest rates. And Trump wants interest rates lower, but those interest rates lower that we'll probably see in the summer of 2026 is going to lead to inflation going back up, most likely, which is why many economists think that that's a bad idea. But we'll be following that through the year. So what can we do about it? Well, here's 5 tips. Let's look at number 1, think before you buy. That's the best thing, right? Just don't go spending money freely on whatever you think you need. Think about it, take a minute and see whether that's something that you really want to buy, because that impulse buying doesn't really help your budget overall. So that's the first thing. The second is, don't spend money you don't have. Try and stay out of debt. If you're just putting everything on a credit card and mounting up your debt, then you're paying all those interest fees on your credit card. and that gets you further behind financially. So be careful of that. Watch your dollars, obviously. And then number 3, we talked about yesterday, emergency savings, having an emergency fund. Always a good idea to put some money aside, because that's when you can really get hurt, when you really need to do something like replace a water heater, or you have a medical bill that you didn't expect. So having some money on the side saved for that is a good idea. This other article linked below, talking about these 5 tips, they go into like updating your resume and networking for job leads and all that. That's kind of like, if you think that you may lose your job, and Amazon just announced another round of layoffs, some like 16,000 people, a lot due to AI and other, but that's one thing. It's always a good idea, right? Just refresh your resume when you want to, but that's kind of negative thinking. And if you're worried about your job, if you don't have a job, obviously you need to be out there looking. There are jobs out there. May not be the best thing that you want to do. Also, the problem with jobs these days, I mean, in many areas, the service jobs, or like you're working in like a mobile mart or something like that, right? They're not going to give you a full-time job, right? They're going to give you part-time, because they don't want to pay those benefits. You got to take care of your own health insurance, and you got to take care of your own dental and all of that. The prices are way up on those. Getting a full-time job with full benefits is not as easy these days as it was in years past. So even if you do get a job, and if it's one of those like gig jobs, I mean, if you're working on DoorDash or Uber Eats or one of those, that's not a real job, right? That's just filling in. You got to stay on finding that full-time job. But make a budget. That's really the 5th one. That's the big one, is making a budget is a pain, right? You're sitting down and you're going through all the different line items of what you're spending money on, but it's good to know what you're actually spending your money on, so you know when an unexpected thing comes up or something you didn't budget for that you want to get, you see where it falls within your budget. Those are goals. Those are things that you would know financially. So that's my take on cost of living increases. Not much else you can do about it, I think, outside of that. If you have another idea, let me know in the comments below. Give the video a like if you haven't already. Please subscribe to my channel. I appreciate the support. We'll see you next time.